So another limit question, and for about the third time today, you should always try direct substitution first. Plug in 1, see what you get. If you get a number for an answer, then that is your answer and you get to quit. But if you plug it in and you get 0 on top and 0 on bottom like you do in this question, that's the indeterminate form where we have to do a little bit more work. So the more work is, we have to make this look different without changing its size. Now, it doesn't factor, which is the most common way to deal with the indeterminate form. There's no trig identity, so there's not that. It's not a complex fraction. There's a short list of things to try, but one of the things on your list that you need to try is multiplying by the conjugate of the numerator. Conjugate just means you change this middle sign. So when I multiply these, this denominator is going to get really messy. So I'm just going to leave it this times this. I'm not going to actually FOIL it out. But the top should clean up pretty well, because these two terms times these two terms, we can just FOIL. The outer part of FOIL and the inner part of FOIL will always cancel when you multiply by conjugates. That's partly why conjugates are so useful. And then the last part of FOIL, a positive times a negative would be negative, and the square root of this stuff times the square root of the same stuff is just going to give you that stuff. Just like the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 gives you 3, the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 gives you 5, the square root of 2x squared minus 1 times the square root of 2x squared minus 1 is going to be 2x squared minus 1. Now, it's positive times a negative, so it's negative, so this whole thing's negative, not just the first piece. I would say these parentheses would be a very common misstep there. So in the top, I have a 2x squared negative and a plus 2. And then I've got all this mess on the bottom that I'm not going to worry about yet. Now, at any time, you can try direct substitution again. You can try to plug in this 1. But it's probably going to still be an indeterminate form until you get something to cancel. So there's probably like an x minus 1 hidden somewhere in here that will cancel out with this. So up here, if I factored out a negative 2, it's going to look like that. And then what can I do with this x squared minus 1? Okay, so factor it, difference of two squares, which is where the x minus 1 cancels. Again, if you're in indeterminate form, you really need something to cancel. And then finally, now that something's canceled, I'm going to try to plug this 1 back in. So negative 2 times 2 on top, 1 plus the square root of 4 times 2 would be 8, minus 1 would be 7. If I'm not doing that arithmetic too quickly. But the fact is I got a number, so it's no longer an indeterminate form, which is good news. And my arithmetic must be off here somewhere.
I think you put this, that's supposed to be a 2 with x.
So if I plug in a 1, 2 minus 1 would be 1, the square root of 1 would be 1, so all this becomes 2. So those cancel and you end up with negative 2 as the answer. So multiplying by conjugates is first step. It's not that common, but when you need it, there's really not a substitute for it. So when you see it look like this and factoring's not going to help, and there's no trig identities, and it's not complex fraction, and it's none of the other stuff, then you consider maybe taking this path.